Hey, Hare Krishna. I know it's been a while since I posted a Bhagavad Gita chapter, so I wanted to get back into it with you guys. Even listening to the words is beneficial. It sinks in subconsciously somehow. If there's any questions or comments, please list them below, and I'll answer them, man. You know, I love answering questions. I'm all about, we're going to wade through the muck and mire together. And if there's something that I don't know, I've got a host of saints to ask. Reading the 1977 edition of the Bhagavad Gita as it is by Swami Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Chapter 4, Transcendental Knowledge. The Blessed Lord said, I instructed this imperishable science of yoga to the sun god, Vishvasan, and Vishvasan instructed it to Manu, the father of mankind, and Manu in turn instructed it to Isvaku. So they're just showing you how it's been handed down from God to the sun god to the next god. And you see why people used to worship the sun, because the sun god had this knowledge, right? So he passed it on. This supreme science was thus received through the chain of disciplic succession, and the saintly kings understood it in that way. But in course of time, the succession was broken, and therefore the science as it is appears to be lost. That very ancient science of the relationship with the Supreme is today told by me to you because you are my devotee, as well as my friend. Therefore, you can understand the transcendental mystery of this science. Because every once in a while, God has to come back and rehash this whole story because people are forgetful. Arjuna said, the sun god Vishvan is senior by birth to you. How am I to understand that in the beginning you instructed this science to him? And this is Arjuna asking Krishna. The sun came way before you were born. You're younger than me. So how is this? And the blessed Lord said, many, many births both you and I have passed. I can remember all of them, but you cannot, O subduer of the enemy. You can't limit God. If you can put a limit on him, it's not God. Because anytime God comes to earth, he knows everything, because that's part of God. He's unlimited in his time. He is time. He's unlimited in his knowledge, so he knows everything, and he's unlimited in his bliss and his love. He's unlimited. Although I am unborn, my transcendental body never deteriorates, and although I am the Lord of all sentient beings, I still appear in every millennium in my original transcendental form. Now this is God saying, I'm here, and my body is my body always, in the spiritual world, in the material world. That's why we say Krishna looks like this, Krishna looks like that, and in the Bible it says we are made in God's image, because in the spiritual world we do have a body, and this is a representation of that body in the material world, which we do so many crazy things to. So God continues, wherever and whenever there is a decline in religious practices, O descendant of Bharat, and a predominant rise of irreligion, at that time I descend myself. So God's saying when the ish hits the fan, he will come to sort things out. But it doesn't mean you just give up and say, God will sort it out. It's like this. That's the whole point of this book. It's God teaching Arjuna, you still must act. He's coming to give a knowledge to the people. Whether they accept it or not, it's a different story. In order to deliver the pious and to annihilate the miscreants, as well as to reestablish the principles of religion, I advent myself, millennium after millennium. One who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode, O Arjuna. Where God is, you will go, and when you go there, you don't come back. Being freed from attachment, fear and anger, being fully absorbed in me and taking refuge in me. Many persons in the past became purified by knowledge of me, and thus they all attained transcendental love for me. All of them, as they surrender unto me, I reward accordingly. Everyone follows my path in all respects, O son of Eartha. So it means no matter what you're doing, God's watching. He knows. There is no spiritual path, material path. It's one path. We talk about these two worlds like they're separate, but it's all the same. And as one surrenders, God rewards accordingly. And so when you find true religion, which we call Sanatana Dharma, it's just a religion that's in a book. It's how you live your life. You know, the Rastas. Men in this world desire success in fruitive activities, and therefore they worship the demigods. Quickly, of course, men get results from fruitive work in this world. You worship the god of rain if you want rain. You worship the god of money if you want money. You worship the, god of fertility if you want. These things have been going on since time memorial. Sometimes they say, be careful what you wish for because you just might get it because, it creates karma. It creates attachment, which creates suffering. According to the three modes of material nature and the work ascribed to them, the four divisions of human society were created by me. And although I am the creator of this system, you should know that I am yet the non-doer, being unchangeable. Don't try to twist some pretzel logic with God with material nature. There is no work that affects me, nor do I aspire for the fruits of action. One who understands this truth about me also does not become entangled in the fruitive reactions of work. All the liberated souls in ancient times acted with this understanding, and so attained liberation. Therefore, as the ancients, you should perform your duty in this divine consciousness. Do your duty. Even the intelligent are bewildered in determining what is action and what is inaction. Now I shall explain to you what action is, knowing which you shall be liberated from all sins. The intricacies of action are very hard to understand. Therefore, one should know properly what action is, what forbidden action is, and what inaction is. One who sees inaction in action and action in inaction is intelligent among men, and he is in the transcendental position, although engaged in all sorts of activities. One is understood to be in full knowledge, whose every act is devoid of desire for sense gratification. He is said by sages to be a worker whose fruitive action is burned up by the fire of perfect knowledge. Abandoning all attachment to the results of his activities, ever satisfied and independent, he performs no fruitive action, although engaged in all kinds of undertakings. It's like saying, I should act, but not be attached to the results of my actions, whether I get it or not. Such a man of understanding acts with mind and intelligence perfectly controlled, giving up all sense proprietorship over his possessions and acts only for the bare necessities of life. Thus working, he is not affected by sinful reactions. He who is satisfied with gain which comes of its own accord, who is free from duality and does not envy, who is steady both in success and failure, is never entangled, although performing action. The work of a man who is unattached to the modes of material nature and who is fully situated in transcendental knowledge merges entirely into transcendence. A person who is fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness is sure to attain the spiritual kingdom because of his full contribution to spiritual activities, in which the consummation is absolute and that which is offered is of the same spiritual nature. Some yogis perfectly worship the demigods by offering different sacrifices to them, and some of them offer sacrifices in the fire of the Supreme Brahman. Some of them sacrifice the hearing process and the senses in the fire of the controlled mind. Others sacrifice the object of the senses, such as sound, in the fire of sacrifice. Those who are interested in self-realization in terms of mind and sense control offer the functions of all the senses as well as the vital force, the breath, as oblations into the fire of the controlled mind. So that means you need to control these things. Not just control what you hear from others. Control what you speak, what you smell, what you taste, what you touch. Control how you breathe. All of this can be done. There are others who, enlightened by sacrificing their material possessions in severe austerities, take strict vows and practice the yoga of eightfold mysticism. And others study the Vedas for the advancement of transcendental knowledge. And there are even others who are inclined to the process of breath restraint to remain in trance, and they practice stopping the movement of the outgoing breath into the incoming, and the incoming breath into the outgoing, and thus at last remain in trance, stopping all breathing. Some of them, curtailing the eating process, offer the outgoing breath into itself as a sacrifice. All these performers who know the meaning of sacrifice become cleansed of sinful reaction. And having tasted the nectar of the remnants of such sacrifice, they go to the supreme eternal atmosphere. O best of the Kuru dynasty, it's Krishna talking to Arjuna. Without sacrifice, one can never live happily on this planet or in this life. What then of the next? All of these different types of sacrifices are approved by the Vedas, and all of them are born of different types of work. Knowing them as such, you will become liberated. O chastiser of the enemy, the sacrifice of knowledge is greater than the sacrifice of material possessions. O son of Pertha, after all, the sacrifice of work culminates in transcendental knowledge. Just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master, Krishna says. Inquire from him submissively and render service unto him. The self-realized soul can impart knowledge unto you because he has seen the truth. That's why it's so important to have a guru, because he has seen the truth and can therefore give it to you. That's the whole point of seeking out these self-realized beings that are on this planet. Yes, we can learn from books, but the self-realized being can also give you that knowledge personally. And when you have learned the truth, you will know that all living beings are but part of me, and that they are in me and are mine. Even if you are considered to be the most sinful of all sinners, when you are situated in the boat of transcendental knowledge, you will be able to cross over the ocean of miseries. As the blazing fire turns firewood to ashes, O Arjuna, so does the fire of knowledge burn to ashes all reactions of material activities. In this world, there is nothing so sublime, as pure, as transcendental knowledge. Such knowledge is the mature fruit of all mysticism, and one who has achieved this enjoys the self within himself in due course of time. Once you have this knowledge, there's nothing outside of it that can satisfy you. It's the happiness that comes eternally, right? We all chase happiness, but we get distressed because that happiness is materially chased after. I want to experience this happiness. I want this. I want to, gain. I want to be happy. It's not how it works. When you serve God, you will be happy eternally because that happiness comes from somewhere else than your ego, which you've been developing this lifetime and other material lifetimes. A faithful man who is absorbed in transcendental knowledge and who subdues his senses quickly attains the supreme spiritual peace. But ignorant and faithless persons who doubt the revealed scriptures do not attain God consciousness. For the doubting soul, there is happiness neither in this world nor the next. There's people that are going to crap on this book or crap on any kind of, religion. They're not happy as they say they are, as they profess to be. Therefore, one who has renounced the fruits of his actions, whose doubts are destroyed by transcendental knowledge, and who is situated firmly in the self, is not bound by works, O conqueror of riches. Therefore, the doubts which have arisen in your heart out of ignorance should be slashed by the weapon of knowledge. Armed with yoga, O Bharat, stand and fight. So ends chapter 4 of the Bhagavad Gita. I'm sorry if I read it poorly. Please forgive any offenses that I might have made. The Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4. It's a very powerful chapter because it speaks of why, we should be on the spiritual path, who we should get the information from, not just any old spiritual path, because you will get the results of whatever path you follow. But if you want the results, you follow the process that's given to you by your guru or your teacher, and the results will come. All right, thank you for listening for chapter 4. I hope I explained it easily enough and hopefully correctly. Again, please question and comments down below, and we'll go through this process together. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.